What are some best practices for a beginner in the field of audio programming? The first and most important thing is C++. Uh, you simply should know how to program in C++ because it's the only language which is supported by both Apple and Google, and it works on iOS and Android and macOS 10, and even under Windows you can use C and C++. These are the most important languages still. And these are the only languages capable of high performance and real-time programming. So C++, this is a must. You must learn it. Unfortunately, it will never work in Swift or in Java. Supporting C and C++ on iOS is relatively easy. It's built into Xcode, Objective-C, and kind of Swift also builds upon C and C++. There are no huge differences. On Android, the situation is more complex because C++ code runs in Android's native layer, which is kind of an afterthought by Google. So Android was not designed originally to support native coding. It was a Java exclusive system, but Google had to open the native layer for more serious applications such as high performance and real-time audio. So Android developers should learn how to use Android Studio, which is the official development environment on Android, and the Android Native Development Kit. Unfortunately, the integration between those is not trouble-free, so Google is still working on the integration. It works kind of, but you can easily have problems. And the Android NDK, the Native Development Kit, uses the Java native interface to communicate between your application's main code in Java and the native layer in C++. And unfortunately, Java native interface is, well, quite an ugly beast, but there is no other way. You should really learn it. And this is the only way for high performance, low latency audio on Android. This is how Google designed the system. So high performance, low latency audio happens in Android's native layer exclusively. And now some more generic things for beginners. Audio processing is not really an exotic thing. This was my first thought when I was a beginner developer, that audio is somehow really a special field, and maybe it happens on the audio hardware or on the sound card or in special audio chips, but no. Most of the audio processing happens on your CPU, inside your application, in the normal user memory space. So it's just like any other processing you do in your application. So you really shouldn't consider sound cards and audio chips and codecs and all that stuff. No. The main thing happens on the CPU and in regular buffers. So next thing is buffers. Audio buffers are regular allocated memory spaces without any special things or features. So audio buffers are really just allocated memory spaces and nothing more. And audio processing happens on the data inside these allocated memory spaces. And audio is just, a bunch of 32-bit floating point numbers or 16-bit short integers. Of course, many audio engines are hiding those buffers because they require you, to learn tons of very strange and abstract things like audio graphs and connection objects and lots of abstract things which I really do not like because audio processing is not special. So with Superpower, we chose a different route um, to scrap all these abstractions and give you raw access to all of these buffers, and you can process on those directly without managing any complex audio graphs or such things. So when you look at our example code, you will see all these buffers allocated and processing directly on them. But for beginners, it's really important to know that at any point where 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 are you in your code, at any point you should know what is in those buffers. More specifically, how data is represented in those buffers. So is it a 32-bit floating point audio or a 16-bit integer? And is the audio interleaved or non-interleaved? So these are the most important questions, and these are the things usually causing troubles for most beginners. You should know at any time that what is in your buffers, and if you notice, then implementing or inserting a new superpowered process method is really easy. And then what beginners should really know that audio processing can happen in two different forms. There is online audio processing and offline audio processing. What is online? Online processing is real-time audio, which the user can actually hear or listen to. So in this mode, online mode, the audio system of your device dictates audio processing, meaning the operating system or the sound card is in charge, and it will always ask you or send you a small chunk of audio in every few milliseconds, and you need to use or process that data in a fixed amount, a short time. Otherwise, you will have audio dropouts. So, a typical example, when your sound card asks for 512 samples of audio data, and you need to provide that data, otherwise the user will hear a dropout. And you provide the data, and the sound card then will return to you for the next small chunk of audio, and the user will hear the result on the speaker. Offline processing is a different thing. The user doesn't hear anything. It has nothing to do with audio hardware at all. Offline processing usually happens in a background thread where you write simple iterations such as a while loop, and you process audio there totally independently from the audio system of your device. A typical example is like loading an MP3 file and applying an effect on the audio and saving the result to the disk. So I think these are the most important practices for a beginner in the field of audio programming.